whole row to myself, because I'm thinking that, really. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, over Italian.
Yeah. Are you ready? Byron? You got us on? Okay. Just a second.
Yeah, down here. We go down here.
Okay. Go ahead. Go and take it out.
I think you've already got this one on too.
Yeah.
You can hear out.
Okay. Ready on the left?
They'll be ready when you put the picture down. Kill the conspiracy.
If she doesn't. Ready on the left? Ready? Whoa. Byron, already got technical difficulties here. Is that just... I'm pretty good at that.
Some people don't like to use the stand. Here. No idea. Great. There we go.
That's probably far enough. That's probably far enough. Welcome everyone. We're pleased for guests and visitors and staff, city staff. I'll call or we'll let the record show it's 6:17 and apologize for the delayed beginning of our meeting. But again, welcome to all that are here this evening. The clerk will call the roll, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Here.
Councilmember Groby.
Here.
Councilmember Dills.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hitchcock is absent. Mayor Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, we do have one member absent, out of town. We do have a quorum, so we'll proceed with our business this evening. And our first, whoops, sorry. Is James here?
No.
James not here. Is Chief Hauser here? Chief Hauser? Fire Chief is here. I'd like to ask Chief Joins to lead us in an invocation, and Councilmember Hawthorne to lead us in our flag salute. And if you can stand, please stand.
Father, we thank you for this night, and we ask you to be with council and as they address the city issues, the city needs, Lord, and pray that you be with them and help them be in one accord and to act on the citizens' behalf, Lord. I pray that you will help us as department heads to always do the best job that we can do. And Lord, I pray for the servicemen and women that are protecting us, Lord, that are away from home, and pray that you'll look over them tonight, guide them, direct them, and keep them safe. Lord, I pray that you'll be with everyone in this room, and
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can be seated, please. If you have an agenda, we've got a couple of proclamations we want to introduce and proclaim this evening. Both are special proclamations issued by the mayor's office. I'm pleased and honored to do that on occasions. These two are of particular have special meaning, particularly our Southeastern basketball team at this time, but we want to do that one first, right? I'd like to invite council and city attorney to join me on the floor. Talk about making someone feel short. Just look at these guys back here. But we're honored and pleased this evening to have our own Southeastern Oklahoma State University basketball team here with us. We have a special proclamation that we want to present. I'd like to invite Coach Green and the players to come forward. Michael, I hope you have a wide lens and a tall lens. But we'll try to get a picture of the team and coach and the city council members. Tim, did you want to add anything or say anything as far as on behalf of the city?
Yeah, on behalf of the city, we'd like to thank Coach Green. I kind of have a little bit of a special bond with Coach Green. We're both Northwestern Oklahoma State Ranger alumni, although our Southeastern team kicked our butts this year pretty good. So, but Coach, and I watched the game on Sunday online, and it was kind of a heartbreaker. We were the runners-up, but stayed up later that night, and I kept refreshing my button. We found out these guys made it to the big dance. They're going to the NCAA tournament, and that's why we're here to and the mayor has a special proclamation for Coach and the team here tonight.
Can't believe how tall these guys are. And Coach Quinn, there he is, right there. Welcome again, guys. It's a special occasion, particularly when the mayor's office issues a proclamation. It's an important thing, and we always, you folks know my history. I like to read them because it tells why we're here and what it's about and who it's about. So bear with me. I'll have a copy for you, Coach, and the team. And here we go. Whereas following a 22-7 season, the Southeastern Oklahoma State University men's basketball team has earned a berth in the 2019 NCAA Division II basketball tournament as a number 7 seed in the Central Region. Let's hear it on that, too. Number 7. And whereas the Savage Storm returned to the NCAA tournament for the first time since the 2006-7 season, and whereas over the 2018-19 season, the Storm's men's basketball team has tallied the most wins since the 2007 regional appearance, and whereas Coach Kelly Green led the Storm to 10 straight winning games heading into the conference tournament final and is still 13-2 over its last 15 games. And whereas the men's basketball team was the 2019 Great American Conference Tournament runner-up, and whereas Storm player Kevin Buckingham, which one's Kevin? Hey, Kevin. He brought his trophy. Wow. Took home the Great American Conference Player of the Year award. My goodness. Congratulations, young man. After averaging 20.5 points per game and was the league's top rebounder with 9.4 rebounds per game and hitting 58.9% of his shots and led the league with 11 double-doubles. Wow. And whereas Storm players Jet Job, where's Jet? Here you go, Jet. Was a second-team GAC selection with Kellen Manick? Where's Kellen? Oh, right there. Right there. Another tall one. And Adam Dworsky. Adam, great job. Earning honorable mention. Guys, you forgive me on these names now. K.O. Concalves? I'll say it any way you want me to say it, young man. Did I say it right? All right. Also joined Dworsky and Manick as GAC Distinguished Scholar Athletes for student athletes who carry a 3.7 GPA or better while competing. Golly, guys. And whereas the city of Durant is proud to be the hometown of SOSU and would like to encourage all Savage Storm fans to rally behind Coach Kelly's men's basketball team to defeat Northern South Dakota State University this Saturday in the first round being played in Maryville, Missouri. And now therefore I, Jerry L. Tomlinson, Mayor of the City of Durant, along with the Durant City Council, do hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to extend this proclamation and hereby declare, March, hang on. Declare March the 12th, 2019 as Savage Storm Men's Basketball Day in the city of Durant. Congratulations, guys.
Well, I want to thank the mayor and the city council and everybody that's here today, obviously. And we do need to tell our players that just because it is Southeastern Day, that does not mean free pizza or free burgers at any of the local establishments. But hey, we're very excited. Sunday was quite a roller coaster for us. We got to the conference championship game, left the gym Saturday night about 10 o'clock, probably got in bed at midnight. The coaches were up throughout the night. We had to play again the next day at 3 in the championship game against a team we had already defeated twice during the year that finished first place. And so the excitement, the butterflies, all that, and then you're getting ready to go play a game that you think, well, I was just in here a couple hours ago. And so we go out and play a hard-fought game. We came up one basket short. And so there's great disappointment. And you know, you're unsure now if you're going to get to play anymore. You got to put your shoes in mothballs and hang the jerseys up. And we're driving back, and the guys were actually on the bus, and my wife and I were driving behind them in our truck. And I'm talking to a friend of mine on the phone out in Arizona who's watching the selection show, and not knowing what's going to go. Are we done? Are we not done? So you still got all that disappointment. And then about 10 o'clock at night, or actually about 9:30, I start getting texts from people saying, hey, you're in. So great. You know, that's a great thing about sports. Sports bring communities together. Sports unite communities. They unite countries. They unite not only teams, but those other things. And these guys have represented Southeastern Oklahoma University. They have represented Durant. They have represented the Great American Conference in a way that you all should be very, very proud of. You have exceptional young men here from all walks of life. We've got people from Oklahoma, from Texas, from Indiana, from Brazil, from Arizona. We've got them from Slovenia. I don't know if I've missed anybody or not. From Australia, so thanks for the elbow to him. So, I mean, we've got people from everywhere. And it's an exciting time for us. We thank you for letting us be a little bit of a part of your night tonight. I hope we haven't pushed you back too far.
Coach. I just want to echo what our city manager's already said on behalf of our council. Congratulations on a job well done, Coach Green, Coach Quinn. I think your young men and your team in representing not only the university but our community are a reflection of your leadership. I compliment you on that on behalf of our city. I want to hear the young Australian say his name.
Aaron.
Well, I think you could tell that was Aussie a little bit. But, Coach, again, Godspeed. You got a great group of young men here. I think you guys can go do it. What do y'all think? Go do it.
Want to take a quick photo?
Oh, sure.
So, come to council, come forward. These guys can stand behind us.
Yeah. I think they'll be good.
Come on, Logan.
Short people in the front. Here we go, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Hang on. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Good luck. Good luck, guys. Go do it. Go do it. Yeah. Where are you from? Brazil. Welcome. Welcome. Excellent. Who's from Durant? James. James. Oh, yeah. I remember you. Yeah. You played at Durant, didn't you? Yeah. You remember Bo White? Oh, that's my grandson. Really? Yeah. What's up, guys? Yeah. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good luck. Good luck. Go do it. Appreciate it. Go do it. Thank you. Congratulations, guys. Good job. Kat, is Kat still here? Kat DeCare, or Kat? It's not DeCare anymore. Did Jennifer make it? Yeah, come on up. All the way. We issued a proclamation earlier this week, or I think, no, last week, I'm sorry. Earlier this week would have been yesterday, wouldn't it? But this is in regards to foster care. Jennifer Steen and a group of her staff and were here last week, and we declared Thursday, March the 7th, as Foster Care Awareness Day throughout the state. Kat is with the Choctaw Nation, the Great Choctaw Nation, and heads up their foster care division and department, and they really do some great things. If you're not familiar with the foster care programs, I suggest you contact Kat or Jennifer Steen at the DHS, right? Yeah, at the DHS, and because they're always looking for foster parents. But we recognized in a special way the other day, and I just wanted to read that proclamation again, or for the first time really, but here we go. And whereas Oklahoma Fosters has established Thursday, March the 7th, 2019 as Foster Care Awareness Day throughout the state of Oklahoma, and whereas nearly 9,000 Oklahoma children and teens are currently living within the state child welfare system through no fault of their own. And whereas less than 4,400 kinship, tribal, therapeutic, and traditional foster homes are currently open across the state, and whereas between 100 and 200 children are hosted or housed in shelters every day due to the shortage of more family-like foster settings, and whereas Bryan County has 133 children in foster care, in which 63 are placed outside of their home county, and whereas the Oklahoma Department of Human Services Child Welfare Agency, all of its partners, private family placement agencies, and the state's 38 federally recognized Native American tribes seek to spread awareness about the need for more foster homes in Oklahoma, because every child deserves a safe, loving home every day. Now therefore it be resolved that I, Jerry L. Tomlinson, Mayor of the City of Durant, do hereby proclaim Thursday, March the 7th, 2019 as Foster Care Awareness Day in the City of Durant, encourage our residents to consider fostering and adopting, and to thank our current and past foster and adoptive families for providing Oklahoma's most at-risk and vulnerable children a safe and loving home. Again, Kat, thank you for what you do, for what Jennifer and her folks do, and would you mind saying a few words as far as how folks might get in touch and that sort of thing too?
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me here. With the state, you'll want to contact okdhs.com. Jennifer Steen is your recruiter there. She does an amazing job. If you're travel, you'll want to contact me at the Choctaw Nation. And there is a large number, and it just keeps growing, of a number of children that come into our care. So even if you can offer a respite, which is babysitting for foster parents, an emergency, so if we have to help them in the middle of the night, you'd be there to just help have a bed for them. Or if you'd like to host full-time foster care, that would be wonderful too. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, we will begin the order of business on our agenda, beginning with item number 1, and that is the consent items. If you have a copy, it's self-explanatory. For those that may not have a copy, the consent docket is to help streamline our meetings, allow the focus to be on other items requiring maybe more thought. The consent items portion groups the routine, procedural, self-explanatory, non-controversial items together, voted on in a single motion, one vote. However, any council member may remove any consent item for consideration under a separate vote. Are there any? We have items 1A through J. Are there any items to be moved or removed for consideration under item number 2?
1A.
1A?
I'm sorry, 1B.
For the record, it's 1B. Are there any others? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the docket?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Takes us to item 2B. That is to consider approval of the regular meeting minutes of February the 12th, 2019. Councilman Hawthorne, I think we have a correction from the city clerk, but proceed.
And I don't know if I need to make this in the form of a motion to correct this, or do we just note it on the record that it needs to be changed?
Note it on record. It would be approved with the correction.
Yes.
Just the correction from last month's regular meeting on item 5A. It references ordinance number 1834. The correct ordinance number is 1875.
That's correct, city clerk, 1875.
Yes.
So we have a motion to correct the minutes 5A of our February meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I think you can make that motion to approve the corrected minutes. That way you don't have to make a motion to correct and then a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the corrected minutes with those changes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby. Aye. Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We moved to item number 3 on the agenda under information items. Council has, on a monthly basis, receives monthly reports from all the departments. Have an opportunity to ask questions, or the staff or department head to make any report. This evening, we have a couple of information items that we want to receive. And Chief, if you'll defer, I'll do the other one first, if that's all right. Okay. Under item number 3U, we have, where's Miss Cunningham? There you are. We have Miss Gay Cunningham here to give a presentation on our senior center. And will that be up there too? Yes. Will it be on the screen, Brian? Okay. Welcome, Miss Cunningham.
Thank you. I'll make my part of this before we have the PowerPoint brief, even though that's hard to do because I've been working on this project for 11 years. And a lot of you have know that all that we've done and tried to do, but I'm speaking on behalf of the board at King's Daughters and Sons Nursing Home when we sold the nursing home. And 4 of my members are here: Mike Ridgway, Mark Swearingen, Sandy Stroud, and Harold Hanna. So these are the people that have kind of made the decision to do what we've been working on for 11 years. When we sold that, we decided that we wanted to do something to help seniors in Durant. And so that was our main purpose of keeping the money, and some of it's been dispersed, but not a lot of it. And we've been looking for ways to accomplish this goal. And so the board is here to support me in making this recommendation to the council. When my husband and I moved here 46 years ago, one of the first things I remember happening was the dedication of the Senior Citizen Center. And I hate to say that they had a grand opening and it was a wonderful place, but 46 years has passed, and since then not a lot's been done. And they did add a new foyer area, and other than that there haven't been many improvements except just regular maintenance. And one thing that we've been doing over the past few years is visiting other senior citizen centers in towns the size of ours, some smaller than us and some that were larger. But we saw that amazing things were being done. It can become the hub of the community and involve a lot of things. Like we saw one place that had a university, one town that had a university, and one of the teachers had made an assignment that they go and visit with an older person and have them find pictures and tell them about it. And they made a scrapbook. And they said the neat thing about that project was when it was over, those college kids kept coming back and visiting those people because they had really bonded. So there's just a lot of things that can happen. A lot of activities were being offered, and the centers were a very important part of the community, you could tell. So we had the idea that that can happen here with the right place and the right leadership. That same thing can be a part of what we do here in Durant. In the last 11 years, we've really looked at two plans. One was to build a building that was going to be where they now have the new basketball court in the park. And there were things about that it wasn't a good location. But I will tell you that I've driven the streets of Durant for 11 years, and I've never really found a place that would really work as far as parking, the space available. And even after the Choctaws moved their offices out, I did the same thing, but none of them were adequate for what we needed. But we did find a building, and that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. This existing building is the Northwest Church of Christ. We're going to show you some pictures of this. This building, I told you that we had two plans that were $2 million. And this plan is less than 1/4 that cost. And it's a wonderful location. It's west of the intersection of Washington and Choctaw, not far from the intermediate school. It's in excellent condition, having been remodeled recently, and it's a perfect size and almost double the size of the senior citizen center we have right now. The only thing that we would have to do is to enlarge the kitchen to continue the Meals on Wheels. But other than that, we wouldn't even have to paint because it's in that good of shape. I would like to remind you that I've said this in many meetings in the past 11 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Durant, and new people are moving to town, and we've seen that people can get excited because of what Stephanie and her people did with My Durant. People want things to be better, and they want things to happen. We've seen new businesses open, and I just want to call to your attention the things that have been built that are new, that were wonderful additions to our community. The new library, the fire station, the police station, the highway patrol station, and a new high school. These are things that have really made our town look better, feel better about what people think of us. And so, you know, the seniors have been left out, and that has been my cry from the very beginning. You know, what about us? I am one now. I wasn't as much of one when I started this, but I'm really one now. And they deserve to have a nice place to go, like everybody else. And that the community really cares enough about them to do something and make it possible. So what I'm asking the council today is a vote of approval. And I understand at this short notice you can't vote today, but I would like soon to know that you would approve this for the Northwest Church of Christ to become the new senior citizens facility for Durant. This facility would be owned and operated and maintained by the city, just as the present facility is. That would not change because it would be a building that belonged to the city. We need this action to take place and move forward in improving Durant. And I think time is of essence. I don't know exactly, but I've talked to the people at the Church of Christ. They want us to have it. And they're trying to work with us, but they're also waiting to build a new building. And they have to have money, show the bank they have money to be able to start their building. So we're kind of on a ticking time bomb here with that. But we need to let our senior citizens know that they matter and we care about them. So we have a power presentation that I think will make you see how much we really need such a facility. And who is the guy clicking the button?
Just point here and we'll go through the slides.
Okay. Okay, this is the present facility that's at 301 North 16th. And the part where the awning is and that other part was what was added. And I'm not really sure how many years after it opened that it was added. Okay, there's a little picnic area. This is what was added. This is the entryway and the newest part of the center. Okay. This is the dining area and just another office that's out in the middle of the entry. This building only has two big areas. It has the dining area, and then in a minute we'll move to the back, and I guess that's area was an area for games and things like that. But see, the things we saw when we visited, they had a lot of rooms for different things to be done. And this is really small compared to what a senior citizen center could do that had space. Okay, this is
We just need you to stay closer to the mic so we can hear you.
oh, okay. I've never been told that my mouth should do something else. Anyway, this is where they serve the meals, and this is another area, okay? This is still the dining hall, and you can see how crowded they are because there's a lot of things around the walls. Next. Okay, this is the kitchen, the existing kitchen, because I don't know if any of you have ever helped with Meals on Wheels, but this is where they're prepared. And then this is the long hallway that goes back to the room I was telling you about on the back. And there's two bathrooms on the left-hand side of that hall. And these are the offices for Sheila Reisner, who's over RSVP, and also her helper. This is that back room. Again, you can see that it's very crowded because they have activities and things, but not a lot of room to spread out. This is still that same room. Okay, the issues in this building, and Tim Rundle told me these are not things that other people have told him. They're things that his own men have told him are wrong. In that building, the roof leaks, they have electrical problems with their lighting, the drainage around the property, the flooring is damaged and needs to be completely torn out and replaced. The sewer and water line have really deteriorated over time. Multiple leaks causing mildew throughout the building. And he said the building's nearly 50 years old, but I told you exactly how old it is, 46 years old. Little or no visibility from any major street, and I cannot tell you how many people, when I say something about the Senior Citizen Center, say, where is that? Because it's on a triangle, and it's just not visible from any place. Okay, this is the proposed Senior Citizen Center. This is the entrance, and you can see the parking lot on the side. And there's a lot of parking there. And one thing that we were talking about doing, remodeling a building, there was really not adequate parking and no way to get it. Okay, this is the entryway. A little bit of difference from what we just saw. And then whoever's going to preach, I guess, will stand up there. It might be me. This is a long hallway, and the one on the right goes back into the dining room, and this other one is just a hallway with rooms on it. There's two hallways that have rooms, and there's 10 rooms other than offices that could be used for different things. This on the left is the seating area for eating, and then this is the one of the main offices. This is the seating room and then part of the kitchen. And this door goes out to a large vacant lot that is also part of the property that we would be purchasing. So we could have outdoor things there. This is the kitchen, and as I mentioned, the only thing that needs to be done in the whole building is to knock out a wall, that back wall where the stove is, and there's a room that is a nice size that could be added for the kitchen area. On the left is the bathroom, and then the right is the counter area between the dining and the food preparation. On the right is a bathroom, and these are just some, I'm going to show you just some of the rooms there. These are just some classrooms that they have. As you can tell, they've taken really, really good care of the building. There's a workroom over here, and they're not quite moved out yet, but that's would be a good space for storage and work area, and there is a lot of storage there. Okay, this is the door that comes out on the east side, and it has an awning over it, and then it looks out on the large parking lot. And this is the lot that I was telling you about. That door that you see is from on the west side, and this is a parking lot. And they're not going to leave a basketball goal because they don't think any of us could use it. Okay, and this is an aerial photo of, you know, the hospital is nearby, the school, and it's in the upper part, in the health clinic. Here's our realtor that can tell you all about the building. How many square feet does that have, Dale?
I think it's 9620.
9620. And I don't know what the present one is, but it couldn't, Sheila thinks it's about half that size or less. And these are just statistics about the building. This is one of my favorite things to tell you, that the city of Ada just broke ground for a $4 million senior citizen center. Isn't that wonderful? Maybe I should move there. But this was a long process also. And then the city of Sherman's annual operating budget for their senior citizen center is $234,000. Did everybody hear that? You know, I'm going to show you what ours is. $23,600. So, what do you think? Does anybody have any questions?
We got another slide.
Oh, the proposed senior citizen advantages, if I haven't already told you. It's priced right. The building was remodeled about 18 months ago. It's move-in ready with only the appliances in the kitchen that we talked about. Lots of classrooms, at least 10, and meeting spaces available. The building could be used to host other functions. Close proximity to the hospital, doctor's offices, and the Bryan County Health Department. The building is single-story, and it's ADA accessible, and the price is $433,000. And the tag is about 1/4 of what our neighbors in Ada are spending on theirs. 1/10. Did I say 1/4? 10th. My math's not really good. So, do any of you have any questions? Look happy. I am. After 11 years, I got to stand here, so I'm really. Here's a question back here, guys. Okay.
Will you still continue to do Meals on Wheels?
Yes.
New facility?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's a part of the senior citizen center. You know.
We go together.
Okay, that's the thing. Okay.
Yeah, if we verified most of the commercial kitchen equipment could be moved from the old facility to the new.
Did you see the picture?
No, I said, can it be moved?
Oh, I don't know. Can it be? Sheila could.
Yeah, they broke down last week. Well, you know, we gotta have the commercial freezers and refrigerator, and, you know, we need that room to make it bigger, but yes, yes.
We could
So
put the
everything
old
would
back
go, and
there.
So all their equipment would go.
Okay.
Of course, we've tried to apply for grants to get other
Upgrades, some of that.
upgrades.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and that's another question that's been asked of me. You know, why can't we just start getting grants and get that money? You can't have it till you own the building. No money available to you unless you own it. And you can, if you really think about that, you know why. Because they have to have, you know, they don't want to give their money to someone that's an unsure thing. So does anybody else have a question? And Dale is the, what?
I don't have a question yet. I just wanted to say that the location is perfect. A lot of seniors either use the public
Gay, if I could, I think probably without exception that council members agree as far as location and the more than adequate parking and visibility and suitability and the move-in ready kind of thing. I think the challenge that, and by the way, appreciate your 11 years on working on this.
Oh, you're welcome. I loved it.
Yeah. You're not going to get to quit though either. You know?
Yeah.
But I think Tim, the city manager, you made this presentation actually the other day too to another group. And Tim, do you have some direction that the city and council?
Yes, Ms. Cunningham has indicated that her group, the RSVP group, has currently $100,000 in seed money, and what they're looking for is match from the city. I think they're going to be approaching some corporate match as well as possibly, talking to the Choctaws and where's Ron Boyer? I said the county, talk to them. See if they can look for some funding as well, because this is something that's just going to benefit the citizens here of Durant, but Bryan County in general, the folks that will come in. So I plan on having a report back to the council shortly, being able to look and see if we can find some funding available in order to facilitate this. And I commend Gay. She made an appointment with me probably, the first couple of weeks I was here, and made sure that she had my attention, and she's continued to have my attention for the 2.5 years I've been here. So, and it's her persistence is, and I'm not joking, it's something that is to be admired, because she's very passionate about finding a solution for this issue, and she is right. I mean, with the community, and Gay and I've talked about this, and she mentioned this at the task force, you can judge a community a lot by how they treat their seniors. And it's not that we don't mistreat our seniors, I just think we could just do a better job.
Thank you. And Gay, you mentioned kind of a time crunch here, maybe a little bit. Can we help? I mean,
we don't even know what it is yet. I'm meeting.
She's meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm having a meeting tomorrow to kind of decide what they want us to do. I understand their situation, because they're ready to start building the church. But if I understand correctly, they do want us to have it. Is that correct? Yeah, they think that, it would be a good place for us to have it, and they want us to, but.
So you'll be communicating with the city manager?
Yes, and I'll be communicating back with the council.
Okay.
He doesn't even hide from me like some people do.
Okay, council members have any questions for Ms. Cunningham?
I'll say regrettably, for 4 years I've heard about this, and it's interesting hearing that she's been working on it for 11, and we've done absolutely nothing to improve the situation. I think the only option obviously is moving somewhere new. And I've seen proposals and I've seen blueprints and all kinds of other stuff about other options. This is probably the cheapest option and probably the best place I've seen so far. So I'm hoping that we can do something about it, because at some point we're going to have to. And if we don't do this, I'm assuming it's probably going to cost a whole lot more than $400 and some thousand.
And upon my arrivals, right after the Boys and Girls Club had moved in and started there, and there was some discussion about utilizing the west side of that building, but I think the price tag for just a remodel was going to be at least a couple million, wasn't it?
$2 million.
Yep.
Over $2 million just to remodel and get it up to snuff to where the seniors could move into that. So this is a much more affordable option for them.
Gay, I think your dream has been a wonderful thing for a lot of senior citizens, so your persistence worked. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad it's worth something.
Thank you again, Gay. Another information item, Chief Joins wanted to address council.
Good evening, council. I may let Ms. Cunningham come up here and speak on my behalf. She does an excellent job getting the point across. I'm bringing to you tonight a request to do some more research on a cost recovery program. We're looking at ways to recoup some expense that we have out on vehicle wrecks, hazardous chemical spills. And in the past, we've done some billing, but we don't really have a good process. There are some third-party companies out there. There's a couple that operate in Oklahoma that is what they do. That's their expertise. They've done the legal documents. They've done the background to make sure they're doing it correct, and they actually will bill for you. They actually will come in, look at your runs, decide which ones they think they can recoup expense on, and then they will bill the insurance company. It's not a direct bill to any person. It goes to their insurance. And I think the money collected from the insurance companies, if they have insurance, is collected. If it's not, they don't attempt to go, they don't hound the people for the money. You know, if they've got insurance to cover it, then that's what they do. This company also looks at police records for damaged guardrails, light poles, reflector poles, you know, just anything where you've had a vehicle accident in the city. They damage city equipment or city property, and it's a way to recoup those expense also. And I'd spoke with Chief Hauser, and I haven't spoken with Cindy, but Chief said that some of those they get to recoup the money on, but a lot of them get by and nothing gets done about it. So it's not actually considered a run fee. It's more or less just a mitigation cost. There's been times we've gone out on a semi-truck crash, and sometimes your turnout gear was your special pants you wear may soak up a lot of diesel or may get some other chemical on it. You know, they're about $2,500 for a bottom set, so that's just money that we have to eat. So I think this would be a good thing. I've still got some research I want to do. I kind of wanted to get it on your minds where you could be thinking about it, you know, and I'd like to bring you something back next month, a proposal, and maybe have a vote on it. Do you have any questions on anything that I've brought to you?
And Chief, thank you. And let me kind of make sure I'm understanding too. You're suggesting maybe looking at a third party to be like maybe a claims adjuster kind of process?
That would be it. Yes, they would file the claims with the insurance companies. Yes, and they get a percentage. It's usually around 20 to 25% of the claim for doing that. There is a House bill passed in 2009, House Bill 1800, which actually allowed for third-party companies to bill or to include their fee into the cost. So if we just went out and billed for it, we couldn't include that fee, but they can do that. That way we get we get as much as we can, and they get their fee on top of that.
Okay, and we have, you know, we have property and casualty insurance through OMAG. Is there any conflict in a claims process there?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I don't know that every claim is getting filed. They've said is to go through these police reports that a lot of times the damage may be in different areas of these claims report or these police reports, and they may not actually get collected on.
I was just, when we have damage to one of our vehicles, our deductibles
Or light post or stop sign?
$2,500 deductible. So that's where a company like this would come in handy, because we don't have the manpower or the resources to track down folks that do damage. We have somebody that's DUI, they come in, damage some of our property. It's very difficult, like you said, to go back and recoup some of those costs.
So that would apply here? That could
Yes.
apply here?
Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, Mr. Mayor, this is so the city can recover some cost where someone else was negligent. You're not talking about when there's a 911 call because somebody's feeling ill or fell in their house for the department to respond. You're talking about when somebody runs a stop sign, causes property damage or personal injury, and you guys have to respond, that you can recover that run fee from the at-fault party's insurer. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
Or if they damage some city equipment, whether it's or property like a guardrail or another run into the back of a trash truck or something because they're not paying attention. This is a way to recover some of that.
Right. As I looked this over, you know, I thought that as the citizens are already paying a tax to cover us making these runs. But then again, when somebody runs over, is negligent, they run over a fire hydrant or a light pole, well, then the citizens are taxed again because we're having to take funds from the city to pay for their mistake. And but I think it would be maybe a direction that we definitely want to look at some more and see if it's viable.
It's not an agenda item for consideration of action, but I think if there's no objections, and Councilor Markham, if you'll not let me get out of bounds here, but I think if there are no objections from council members, I think we'd all be pleased if you would research this and bring it back to the city manager so that it can be brought before council.
Okay. I have also checked on several other cities that are doing this. Owasso, Muskogee, Sapulpa, Tulsa, the list goes on. There's probably, there's 2 different companies that I've seen, found that actually work in Oklahoma. And I'd say there's probably 20, 25, Mark, that are doing some kind of billing between these 2 companies. So they will help you write the ordinances if we decide to go that way, and they've done that for other cities. So, but.
And just another question: the fee is based upon if they collect.
Correct.
What they collect. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And they add theirs on to that. So. But once again, it's not a run fee. We're just trying to recoup some expense on equipment that's damaged. Okay. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you all.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Council members have any other department reports under information items they'd like to hear? Okay. And we'll move to item number 4 on our agenda under administration. Excuse me. Item 4A is to consider approval of resolution 2019-10 authorizing mural project for 2010 West Main Street. Matt?
Mayor, Council, good evening, everyone. For your consideration is a request for approval of a mural for the Leonard Spellman building located at 2010 West Main Street. On the building's south-facing facade facing West Main. And given to you in the briefing and on the table for the public if they'd like to see is a new proposed rendering, which includes addition of a medical symbol, the caduceus, with a marijuana leaf behind it, and the black symbol that you see in gold. So with those changes for this building, the leasee is hoping to have a medical marijuana retail dispensary at the property. So that's what this. That's what's behind this mural. Again, this adding vibrant and positive atmosphere. The applicant hopes to add that for the Durant area. And I'm here for any questions.
Council members have any questions for Mr. Matt? Are we at a time to consider a motion for the resolution?
Move to approve resolution 2019-10.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Matt. Item number 4B, consider award of bid to the Overland Corporation for milling and overlaying of Washington between Elm and University and Radio Road between West Main, and the agenda reflects University Street but it's actually just past Shamrock Lane, as I understand. Oh, James, there you are.
Yes.
James, the floor is yours.
Yes. Last month, we went out for bids. We sent out, I believe, 3 bid packets. We actually got 4 bidders back. And the low bid was Overland in the amount of $223,100 with a 1-year material and workmanship warranty. And everything seems to be in order to move forward with this project.
Any questions for James?
James, when would they start this project?
I believe they said they could start as early as April 1st. There are some provisions in the specs to try to keep traffic flowing. There'll be some flagmen. We will have to do some crack sealing maybe on Washington before they can start. We've already did some curb repair. I don't know if everybody noticed. We did a little concrete work up there, but we will have to do some, once that asphalt's removed, there's going to be some expansion cracks that we may have to seal before that. But other than that, they're going to do everything else and the striping and everything when it's done. Okay.
And that's a good question. Would they, do we know which street they would begin with?
No. I would think we'd probably get Washington milled so we can do our part on the crack sealing. That's what I'm going to meet with the company and suggest we do. Then they can go ahead and mill and be working on the other one. We will have to go out there and do a little side work. We're going to clean the ditches and things and try to get it where the water will run off before they do come in. But we'll be doing that the next month or so if the rain stops. Pray.
Yeah.
No rain.
Any other questions for James?
Move to award the bid to Overland.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Takes us to 4C. Consider award of bid to Midstate Traffic Controls, Inc. for backup battery systems for the traffic signal lights in the amount of $41,800. James again.
Okay. We sent out to 7 companies bid packets. We also published in the Democrat and also on our website. We only had 2 bidders come back. I think that had to do with the distributorship here. I think that's probably why we only got 2 back. The amount that Midstate Traffic Control was a low bid at $41,800. And the intersections that we're going to put these at is Highway 6975 in West Main, southbound off-ramp, Radio Road in West Main, University Place in West Main, Radio Road in University, Boulevard Washington in University. That's some major intersections that will, if we do have a power outage, then the batteries will kick in and at least put them in a flash mode so that traffic can continue. We won't have to go out and put up stop signs.
Actually, if I understood you right earlier, the traffic light really continues to operate for a time.
Yes, I think it's about 4 to 6 hours, and then once that battery starts getting weak, it'll kick it into a flash mode, into a red 4-way flash. It kind of works the same as us putting out a 4-way stop.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Again, any more questions or questions for James?
Move to award the bid to Midstate Traffic Controls.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. 4D, consider award of bid for agricultural hay leases, Tract 1, the former Country Club, and Tract 2, the Durant Mall Sports Complex. Mr. Marty.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. These 2 parcels of property were put out for bid, advertised for bid in the Democrat and on the city website both. We got 2 bids back for each property by 2 different people. We would recommend Tract 1, which is the former Country Club, go to Danny Shepard for $500, and at Tract 2, the Durant Multi-Sports Complex, would go to Ken Barfield for $200.
questions for Marty regarding the leases, hay leases? Is that, how does that compare to years past bids? Marty, do you know?
I actually don't know. Cindy might know more.
$500 amount was significantly higher. I think the $200 amount was about the same.
About the same.
Very
yeah.
good. Any other questions for Marty? Not entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Have a motion? Do we have a second? I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Abstain.
Councilmember Groby, Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4E. Item 4E, consideration to approve resolution 2019-07, supporting the U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation 2019 Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Program Grant application for a citywide automatic meter reader project Group 1 request funding category in the amount of $300,000. I know Miss Becca's up there. Becca, you help lead me through what the steps we need.
I am going to. Thank you, Council and Mayor. As a little bit of background information, especially for the public, last July we applied for a Water Smart Small Scale Efficiency Grant for 300 meters in the amount of $75,000. We have received verbal approval on this grant, and with the shutdown, and that kind of slowed things down, but we will be getting our contract hopefully in March. And so this is the same funding source, but they have another grant that's a water and energy efficiency grant with two different categories, and they're called Group 1 and Group 2. This resolution is for Group 1, and that is that we can apply for $300,000 towards our 3.757868 project. And then we get to the next item, but I want to go ahead and include this explanation. Then we can also apply in the Group 2, which is $1.5 million, which just reduces our match for that. The Bureau of Reclamation is allowing anyone, any community, to apply for two different funding sources. And then if we score well in both of them, then they will give us a choice as to which one we'd like to receive. And so... $1.5 million. Yeah, of course. And Aqua Strategies, a partner with Choctaw Nation, is providing technical assistance for the two applications. So, and I apologize to you for the lateness this afternoon in the pre-council meeting, but we had to change some numbers because we've been advised to add in some in-kind labor for our administrative part. So we kind of had to move some budget numbers around. So,
council members have any questions for Ms. Becca?
And we've already, I guess, discussed this in the back at the pre-agenda meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to apply for both the $300,000 and the $1.5 million.
Yes, ma'am.
And my understanding is they're only giving out $24 million on these grants, this grant, particular grant. Is that?
I don't know the total funding. I don't. Of course, the Group 2 for the 1.5 is going to be highly competitive. I did talk to the agency, and last year they funded 19 at the 1.5 million category. So, you know, we have a good shot, and they said especially since we've already received one for the $75,000, that shows our progression here, and that we're wanting to move forward and do a citywide project. So I think it would.
Is that the 300 meters that you
yes.
said? How long ago's that been? Have they gotten here? Did we say they were here yet?
No. It was verbally funded in December, but with the government shutdown, that has slowed things, and our agreement has not come. So I don't want to say we have the award until we get that agreement, but it's favorable. And Mayor, could I say, because we had to make some last-minute changes, I would like to request that whoever makes the motion, that it be approved contingent on me making sure that this is perfected and that our totals are right compared to the grant budget.
And I'm not sure I understand what part you'd like to be contingent.
The resolution.
Contingent upon?
Me making sure there's no typos and that it matches the grant budget. Which you have the grant budget attached.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just looking at the agenda item.
The agenda item is to approve Resolution 2019-07, and that is for Group 1, which is the $300,000 grant request.
With the contingency of making sure the numbers are accurate. Okay.
Just, yes.
If there aren't any other questions for Ms. Becca, do we have a motion?
For 4E, it is still Resolution 2019-07.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-07, contingent upon Rebecca being able to go back and review and make sure all the information is correct.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. We'll move to item 4F. This is consideration to approve Resolution 2019-08, supporting U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation 2019 Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Program Grant application for a citywide automatic meter reader project, Group 2, grant request funding category in the amount of $1,500,000. Ms. Becca again.
Yes, and this is for the same project scope. It would be citywide, but it is a grant request for 1.5, and then utilizing our OWRB funds as the cash match, along with our in-kind administration. And again, if the motion can be made with the contingency.
Are there any questions for Becca? Not entertain a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 2019-08, contingent upon Rebecca being able to go and review and verify the accuracy.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becca. Takes us to item number 5 on our agenda under public hearings. 5A, consider approval of ordinance 1847, rezoning from convenience commercial C1 to general residential R3 for property located in the 4700 block of University Boulevard. Mr. Mann.
Yes. So for your consideration is approval of sections 1 and 2 of ordinance 1847, which is a request from Shield of Faith for a rezoning from their current zone of C1 convenience commercial to R3 general residential district. The property is 4.7 acres and located, as you can see on the screen, just northeast of the intersection of University Boulevard and 49th Avenue. The area is platted already. Originally, 13 years ago, a planned unit development came through council and was approved, which platted the property into 12 lots. After 2 years of no development, that plan unit development faded, but the plat still stands. This rezoning request is to facilitate multifamily development, triplexes or quadplexes on those, utilizing those 12 lots. At the regular meeting of the Planning Commission on February 19th, the Planning Commission voted 4-0, recommending unanimous approval of the request. Staff My office has reviewed the applicant's petition, and we recommend its approval because of its conformity with the future land use map that we have on the books at the moment. The future land use map recommends a mix of general commercial and high-density residential for this site. Also, the surrounding zoning, as you can see in the zoning map and the attachments, it is surrounded on most sides by the R3 zone, which is the request. Citizen concerns, there were 2 formal concerns brought to my attention before Planning Commission, and at Planning Commission, citizens spoke with the same concerns regarding increased demand on sewer and water infrastructure, as well as stormwater infrastructure. The sewer in that area, there is already an improvement on a lift station, the Mooney station, in that area, which should address the sewer issue. For stormwater infrastructure and general drainage, a couple of citizens requested that I go out to the site, so I did and documented what I saw. They were referencing a comprehensive drainage study that was supposedly brought to council when in this area there was a rezoning request about a year and a half ago. I've searched for those minutes, I can't find them, but I can't imagine there's anyone who would have disagreement with a comprehensive drainage study for Durant. And speaking with Marty and Public Works, that is on the to-do list, drainage study. Not only would it help this particular this area, but all of Durant and the issues we've heard with water. I'm here for any questions. I'm not aware if the applicant is or not. He may or may not be.
Matt, is this ordinance 1875 instead of 1847, the one we're discussing?
I have in my records 1847.
I think that referenced a correction.
The one I was referring to was on the February
Okay.
agenda.
And I need to point out, we are under the public hearing portion of our agenda. If anyone is present or in the audience that wishes to speak or address any of these public hearing requests or considerations, this would be your opportunity to do so, whether you speak in favor of or in opposition to. So, are there, sorry?
I said, you said you spoke with 2 people, and I would like to be the 3rd voice for that.
Okay. And Ms. Walker, let me do this. Those that do wish to be heard in the public under the public hearing portion need to come to the podium and identify and give an address, and appreciate that.
Okay. My name is Sharon Walker, and I live on Kimberly Road, right there, just north of the area that you're talking about. And we do have drainage problems, and we are experiencing sewer problems in that area.
How far is that? Does that residence fall within that citizen 300-foot thing, or what?
It might. I can grab that.
Or did you receive Sharon? Did you receive a notice or a letter of anything regarding this request?
I don't recall,
Okay.
but
And
Kimberly
only reason
runs
only reason-
parallel to University.
Okay. The only reason I ask is that we're required to residents within, or owners, property owners within 300 foot of any like rezoning consideration are supposed to receive a notification, and that goes to public hearing for a hearing, and that'd be an opportunity to visit with planning and zoning, community development regarding any support or opposition or concern. So we're hearing that. and you may not have received one, may not live within that required distance, but Matt's made a note already, so we've got your concern documented.
Okay.
And you're talking about drainage, right?
And sewer problems.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did council members have any other questions for Marty, his presentation?
I've got some questions.
Okay. Please come to the podium, sir.
My name's Ronnie Burns, and I live directly adjacent to this property to the west. For some reason, I didn't receive a letter regarding the zoning change. I'm not sure why. I don't have a mailbox out in front of my house, but it keeps getting taken down by cars running off the road, so that may be why. But I do have a P.O. box that I use. But anyway, I've been to before the council before about my concerns of development in that area, and it's mainly due to the flooding that occurs. If we could get well, we got a pretty close-up map of that area. You can see that within that tree line, there's a creek that runs north and south on the west side. And there's a fairly decent drop-off on the west side that feeds that creek. And my concern is the development of that property with asphalt, concrete, housing, roofing. The runoff is going to feed into that creek and directly affect the property, my property on the backside, where it would flood that property. And I think you made mention about a year and a half ago, there was a rezoning request for the corner of 49th and University, and I came before the council with that same concern. I realize the development's going to head that direction, and it's going to occur, but what I've seen in the past on the developments is the city has allowed an engineer report to come through for the development, not really requiring any type of retention ponds. There's one development to, I guess, to the west on 49th that the gentleman built a pretty good sized retention pond and took care of a lot of the storm runoff. But the other developments, all they're doing is putting in about a 10-inch pipe that's restricting the flow, and that's all it's doing. It's not restricting the volume, but it's restricting the flow of water. So anytime it rains, my property floods, of course, 49th floods, a big part of University floods, from what I would say would be almost from Highway 70 down to University, and I believe it's Radio Road down to 49th. So we've got a major problem with storm runoff in that area. And anyone that lives in that area or travels through there, I'm sure, is affected by that every time it rains. So I'd like the council to consider that. I'm not objecting to the development. I just would like the council to have on record that we have a problem with the flooding in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Thank you.
And Matt, you mentioned this was platted some time ago. Was there an engineering study or engineering required at that time, or for the drainage?
Yes, one of the lots is determined for drainage, for retention pond.
And through the permitting process, et cetera, that has to occur, doesn't it?
Correct, correct. They need to come up with new engineered drawings, but in the platting of this 13 years ago, that was under consideration. But no matter what your decision is tonight, we, in my office, we're going to require new engineering drawings.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak regarding this ordinance 1847 rezoning request? Anyone in the audience? Anyone in the audience? We'll close the public hearing portion of 1847. Council have any further questions for Mr. Matt?
Matt, did you say there will be a retention pond? Did you say they had platted for a retention pond?
They had platted for that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Matt?
Council, apologies. It just came to me because I've heard this not only from the gentleman, but also one of the residents who asked that I come out there to this area, that letters weren't received. I do have the verification that we prepared and sent out letters to all the adjacent property owners within 300 feet. No letters bounced back. So that's as much proof as we can get until we hear that people don't receive them. So.
And when you say that, you're saying they were certified and we didn't get any
correct
non-receipts back.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt? Are we out of time to consider a motion?
Move to approve ordinance 1847, section 1.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Do we have a motion for section 2?
Move to approve section 2.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne.
Aye.
Councilmember Groby.
Aye.
Councilmember Dills.
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We're still under the public hearing portion. We'll move to item 5B, and that is consideration to approve or deny a final plat for Patriot Field property located on the west side of South 15th Avenue between West Georgia and Byers. Mr. Matt.
Yes, this request before you is requesting approval of a final plat for Patriot Field. The preliminary plat came in nearly exactly a year ago. JMOC is the applicant, and the property is located on the west side of South 15th Avenue between West Georgia and Byers Streets. The purpose of the division of property and what is already underway is construction of a single-family neighborhood. My office coordinated with Public Works, and it meets all of the city specifications in terms of infrastructure, streets, water, sewer, on this piece of property. And at the regular meeting of the Planning Commission on February 19th, the Commission voted unanimously for approval, 4-0, recommending approval of the plat. I'm here to discuss any concerns or questions regarding the request. As a general note, I do want to mention that South 15th Avenue, as you'll see in the first couple of photos in the slides, I think we already passed them, but in the packet it shows the access from South 15th. That South 15th severely narrows at where you hop on the curb a little bit to continue on South 15th, and it seems more appropriate in width for one lane of traffic. But this is outside of the purview of the applicant. It's public right-of-way. Coordinating again with Public Works, it is on the to-do list, and we don't have requirements in place for such things as impact fees. But the applicant has prepared for future development and future street improvements along the stretch of South 15th, He put his entrance back to accommodate a 30-foot right-of-way. So you do have a slight turn in before you get to the official entrance. There's a large apron in getting to this neighborhood. Citizen concerns. One citizen concerns was filed with me before Planning Commission, and it was the same as citizen concerns brought forward at Planning Commission, concerned about the street width, flooding issues, the narrow access, just concerns about the context of this subdivision in terms of bar ditches and stormwater, the creek flooding, sewer backing up, but that's outside the purview of the plat. It meets the city specifications, the actual plat area.
Any questions for Matt from council? Anyone in the audience regarding final plat consideration for this property on West, on 15th?
My name is Jesse Darnap. I live on 801 South 15th Avenue. I know that you talked about they're coming in there. They're talking about actually coming in there and widening out 15th Avenue. You got 40 houses going in right there. That's going to be a lot of traffic in and out right there on 15th Avenue. 15th Avenue started out as an alley. They came about 11 years ago and they went ahead and paved it in. Part of that road belongs to the two houses right there across the street from that on the east side of the 15th Avenue. Whenever you do the survey, there's about 4 foot into that road, that one-lane road, that belongs to those people. But whenever you get down there, I know that, and it's almost redundant to sit here and ask or talk about it now because all the houses already have the foundation. Most of the houses are already done. There's a couple of houses pretty close to being move-in ready right now. But the 15th Avenue itself, where all the main traffic is going to go, that's going to be pretty bad, especially with 40 houses in there. Have they got a timeline when they're going to start doing that?
I'm not aware.
And is your question, sir, regarding the street?
It's regarding the street, yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing portion of the plat consideration of Patriot Field, of property South 15th Avenue. Council members have any further questions for Matt?
Matt, what are they going to do with the street? I mean, to answer his question there. I'm sorry, I can't hardly spell.
Sure. Well, as far as I'm aware, and I haven't seen the specific plans, but in communicating with Public Works, it's 30-foot paved access that's planned as far as I'm aware, and that then goes a little bit beyond in terms of the full right-of-way in order to fit in bar ditches and any utility easements. But all I know is it's on the books, but there are streets that serve significantly more population that are ahead of it and in worse condition than this stretch of South 15th. That's all the information I know.
Did I understand you to say the developer is providing how'd you refer to it? Apron kind of width or widening for turning into the street or off of the street?
Just utilizing a wide, deep apron, putting where the actual street width for 2 lanes of traffic, where that begins is recessed off of South 15th to accommodate the future widening of South 15th.
This person made reference to the street being on a couple of folks' property? Or the street being in the,
And
has that come before you?
that was brought up Planning Commission. No research or analysis have been done on that, but I imagine that in the street improvement process, once it reaches that South 15th, that we will need to assess on warranty deeds the actual legal descriptions of where those properties fall and where the right-of-way falls, and reconciliate as needed. But it's the second time I've heard this, so I'm glad it's on the record.
Any other questions for Matt? Are we out of time for a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne,
Aye.
Councilmember Groby,
Aye.
Councilmember Dills,
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Takes us to item 5C. Consideration to approve or deny request of an amendment to the final plat for the Red Bud Estates subdivision located along Commercial Lane. Mr. Matt.
Yes, this item for your consideration is Roger Ball's request of an amendment to the final plat for the Red Bud Estates subdivision, which is located along Commercial Lane. When the platting process was done and the construction occurred, there was an issue with the construction, the placement of several of the homes, and the homes were built mistakenly over property boundaries. This affected lots 9 through 14, and this request is to correct the plat, correct those property boundaries. This item was tabled in the Planning Commission September 2018 meeting in order for all involved property owners to establish agreement. At the regular meeting of Planning Commission February 19th, Planning Commission voted 4-0, recommending the request denial due to a lack of notice to the owner's mortgage companies. And also an attachment to this, and I have copies if needed for the public and for the council, of a hold harmless agreement. An issue for Planning Commission was also that the hold harmless agreement was not notarized. So given the situation and also a meeting that occurred after the Planning Commission meeting in February between my staff and city legal counsel, Mr. Ball and his representatives and counsel, my office recommends the petition's approval contingent upon the notarization of that hold harmless agreement, as well as the documentation showing owner-lender notice. I'm happy to facilitate discussion of this, and we've received no citizen concerns on this request.
Council members have any questions for Matt on item 5C, request of an amendment to the final plat of Red Bud Estates? Again, I'd remind we're under the public hearing portion. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak either in favor of or in opposition to this consideration.
My name's David Kelly. I'm a lawyer here in Durant, and I've been retained by Mr. Ball to assist him in regard to this modification, amendment, or replat. And the reason this needs to be done, when he came to me and talked to me about it, I considered all the options that might be possible here to do what needs to be done. My opinion is the only way to do this is by replat, or what the surveyor called it was an amendment to a plat, which is fine. But the problem is houses were built on lot lines. It's not a correction of a plat. it is a replat. And we need to replat because there's, in my opinion, no other way to accomplish the goal here and make it look good in regard to county records. As I said, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Ball. He's a builder, contractor, and I've also spoken with the abstractor, Mr. Alan Wheeler, and Chris Adams that works there in his office, and they agree that this is a method because they have issued title insurance in regard to these properties, and it is incorrect. Those things have to be corrected. I've also talked to their legal counsel, and legal counsel for the abstractor is willing to approve what we are recommending. The the fact that we didn't get the document notarized is just a question of what's the best method. That wasn't the method I chose, but we can make sure that document gets notarized, and we're willing to do that. We did not contact all of the lenders up front. Since we had the meeting, we have contacted lenders, but those mortgages have been, they've been sold or transferred or assigned to other mortgagees, and it's difficult to get contact with them, but we have done that. But we don't have a completed an agreement with them at this point, but we're working toward that. And you know, a simple answer is they don't have a choice but to do this because they don't have a good mortgage. And the purpose of this is to make sure the lenders have correct, legal, valid mortgages, and to make sure that the owners have correct, legal title to their property. And so we just simply ask that this council approve this so that we can move forward to correct the problem. That there are a lot of reasons that it happened, but don't need to go into that. We're just willing to do what we said, which is correct the problem. We're willing to contact all of the mortgagees, make sure they have correct mortgages on correct legal descriptions, and that the owners have title insurance and the mortgagees have a mortgagee's title policy. I'll answer questions.
Thank you, David. Mr. Kelly, as I read our agenda item, we were to consider an amendment. You've mentioned that's not maybe the best way, and you're talking about a replat.
Well, it's the same
which
thing.
I don't
It's same.
Okay.
And we have the plat here, and there's the original plats here if anybody wants to look at it. But
how many houses are involved? How many homes are involved?
I'll have to refer to Mr. Ball for exact answer on that. How many houses?
Four.
4 houses.
I think on behalf of our counselor, I'm going to defer to our city attorney. We had some discussion in our briefing. Tom, I thought kind of for a minute that was a little different in hearing a replat versus an amendment, but our city attorney gave us some advice earlier, and I defer to him as far as what Mr. Kelly has presented, and are we still at the same place?
Well, council's correct. I mean, it needs to be corrected. Regardless of how it came about, it needs to be corrected. It needs to be corrected for the homeowners. My concern remains the same as it has since the very beginning of this, is that really it's two-phased. One is this is a chicken and the egg kind of deal. Does the city agree to a replat or approve a replat, and then the property owners and the builder and everybody go on about getting the required, deeds and agreements with lenders? And I think, or do we ensure that the homeowners are protected because their lenders are made aware of this situation, which wasn't the case early on? Because what I don't want to do is for the council to approve changing someone's property lines and then cause that homeowner to be in violation of the terms of their mortgage. And some of them would be. I've looked at the mortgages. So I think my position on it still stands as it did a few weeks ago when we met, that before I could advise the council to approve replatting the property, that the council is secure that the property owners are protected and they're not going to be in violation in terms of their mortgage. And it simply takes getting a release from their mortgage company to, or approval to do this. And it is difficult to get that, but it needs to be done. And again, there's more than one way to accomplish this. Coming through council is one way, and it's probably the easier of the two ways, but I can't advise the council to move someone's property lines without ensuring that certain boxes have been checked, and they haven't. So until they are, the council's free to approve the amendment to the plat or the replat, but I can't advise you to do that until those boxes are checked.
May I respond?
Yes, sir.
In essence, the lot lines have already been they've already been changed by the activity that's occurred. The houses have been built. And, you know, however you want to look at it, the lot lines were changed when the building occurred. Not on paper, but on the ground, they were actually changed. And that's all we're doing is we've made agreements with the homeowners in regard to that and redrawn the lines. And we need you to approve this plat so we can finish the job of contacting, final contact. We've had contact with lenders. We just don't have everything together to do what needs to be done at this time. But I can assure you that working with Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Adams and their counsel, that this will be completed, even though we can't stand here today and say we have all of our ducks in a row, because we don't really have that. But we can't really do that, I don't think, until we get you to approve this plat or replat. And that's what we're asking you to do, is to correct the problem, because it has to be done. And we think we're on the right direction to get that done.
Mr. Kelly, I don't mean to speak for the council because each council member can speak for themselves. And I appreciate your comments and the efforts that you've already gone through. I have to listen to our city attorney, his advice. But at the same time, I want to assure you that this council will stand ready to meet in a special meeting or an emergency meeting to help expedite once some of these ducks maybe that our city attorney needs to be comfortable with can be accomplished. We'll stand by to meet in a special meeting to consider that. Council members?
Mr. Kelly, I just would like to ask you a question. Would this change the lot size?
It does, yes. And my understanding is that this has been approved by obviously the people that signed the plat, and the people that signed the plat were the homeowners.
David, when these first, I'm sorry, I can't hardly talk. When these were drawn up the first time, people thought that this was going to be their boundaries. And now, since they're going to be different, I mean, as far as one's going to get this size, one's going to get this size. And so how much difference is that in the size of those lots when they was first originated?
We have it all on a plat. I can't myself tell you exactly the differences, but there are some differences.
But everyone's in agreement on that.
That's correct. That's my understanding. And some of them are here that then they can speak for themselves, but that's what I understand anyway.
But the way the lines are drawn, is that the way it is now?
The way they're drawn there is the way it was to start with, I believe.
Yeah, it
but
goes
now
right
they had
through
to
the
change.
Because those homes are on those lines.
They were changed by the survey. As you can see, the lines go through property.
Yeah,
and
that's right through that
That's
house.
not acceptable. That's the reason we're here, is to correct that. And anybody that sees that is going to say, that needs to be corrected. And we believe that every mortgagee is going to say, fix it for us, please. Because they don't have good mortgages. So we're just asking that you approve it today. If you can't do that, then give us a date to come back and we'll make another shot at trying to get everybody to, all the mortgagees to sign something that will say they will do what they will agree. And I just don't have that to give you today.
My days are numbered here, but I would definitely be agreeable to a special meeting, however quick we can get it turned around. Because I agree that it needs to be made whole, but I also understand where the city attorney's coming from, that if I've got a mortgage and I'm in violation of that, I mean, I'd like to think that the mortgage company has my best interest in mind, but chances are they probably don't. So that's, but we know the city's not gonna come hunt them down because their boundaries are not correct. I would be a little more worried about what the mortgage company would say and making changes without their, I guess, their approval.
Well, one thing for sure, we can't tear the houses down and move them, so the only other option is to rezone, or, which to me makes the most common sense, if we can agree on that. And
Well, all the title lawyers have agreed to that. That's the way to do it, or at least the ones I've talked to.
And I think you're probably right. The mortgage companies are really not gonna have a choice. But still, I think they'd probably want to sign off on it before it was changed.
My name's James Bishop. I just had just a general question. So I don't have any interest in this other than just listening to the comments that are made, but what is the detriment to the city by us passing this resolution? If we have a legal counsel, their legal opinion is we can do it. If the abstracting office says we can do it, the homeowner saying we can do it, if the mortgage companies were to come today, they would reclaim that loan. They're already not in compliance with that mortgage. So if my banking background as a credit analyst going out for a site inspection, we would already want to close on that. We would already want to get rid of that loan, or that loan as it stood, because it's a bad loan. So we're looking to get out of it as a lending entity. On the city side, you're asking the city council not to approve this. What's the liability to the city to approving it if you're saying that the homeowners are the ones who would be in the detriment, but I don't see the detriment to them from the advice we're hearing from other people?
So there are multiple interest holders in each of these properties. There are lenders, there may be utility easement holders, landowners, whoever has a particular interest in that property. And until each of those interest holders have signed off in approval, the city runs the risk of changing somebody's property lines without their consent, and that is a taking. And the city then incurs liability for a taking. If the city changes your lot lines without your consent, the city has somehow changed your property interest. Maybe that taking hasn't come to the city's benefit, but it's come to somebody's benefit. Mm-hmm. If we squeeze your lot, the property owners on either side of you now own more property, or
Right.
different property. And unless you and all of the interest holders in your piece of property have signed off on that, the city has done something to affect their property interest. And so that's my concern, is because we don't have a list. We know that the property owners need this done.
Okay.
Because somebody made a mistake. Now the property owners need this mistake rectified. The city has some small part in doing that, but there's more than just the property owner that has an interest in this property. And we don't have approval by all of the interest holders so that I can advise the city, every interest holder in this property has now signed off on it, change the lot lines.
So I think what I was hearing from the presenter, from David Kelly, when he was speaking, he was saying that that the city has to, his understanding is that the city needs to give an approval to move forward. They're not allowed to move forward without the council allowing a vote to say, okay, we'll allow you to move forward. So is there not something we could say that is, we allow this process to continue forward? We would give our blessing as long as all of the persons of interest that have an interest in this property are notified correctly and there's no objections, we would give our consent. Is that something we could do?
That's exactly what I'm advising. Once all those people are notified, or all those entities are notified and they give their consent, I would advise the council to approve the replat. Again, this isn't the only method to get this done. It can be done at the courthouse. But when you do it at the courthouse, the process is the applicant names as interest holders all of the landowners, the mortgagees, the utility interest holders, and provides them notice. And once all those people have notice and they don't object, the court can change the plat. I would advise the city to do that, given those same conditions.
Okay.
Could we not pass this contingent on them providing this to us so we don't have to keep readdressing this?
The short answer is yes. The council can pass it if they want to, but you have then changed somebody's interest in a piece of property without their consent.
I don't really believe that this case could be solved by the court. I know Mr. Markham has made that comment to me on several occasions, but the court operates to correct a plat. We are not correcting a plat. We are replatting. I don't believe the court has the power to replat, but if there's a problem in a plat, which is not the problem here. We have a perfect plat. The plat, as originally done, was correct. But when the buildings occurred, they put the property, the buildings on lot lines, and that just won't work. So the only way that I see to do it, and is to replat it. And as far as notice to everybody, I believe that all the property owners have notice because they signed the plat. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members?
My name is Chris Adams. I'm president of Bryan County Abstract Company. I would just like to put on record that we have done title work on all of these, or most of these lots in the past, and issued title policies, title insurance to both the owners and the mortgage companies on, I believe, 3 of the 4 owners in question. So they do have title insurance policies for the owners, and their mortgages are covered in a mortgagee insurance policy. Now, whether those policies cover, I can't say, but they do have those in place. Just like to let that be known to the council.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? We'll close the public hearing portion. Council members have any further questions for Mr. Matt or for our city attorney?
I guess I'd like to ask Tom, is he recommending we just flat deny it, or? would there be any amendments or anything we could add to it to not?
My recommendation would probably be to table it until a future meeting, until that information could be provided. I don't know that a denial is in order, because ultimately this needs to be done. I just don't think it's timely.
Do we have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll just mention that got some work to do. And I mean, as quickly as that can be done, this council will stand ready to consider this request, Mr. Kelly and the others involved.
If
Any
I
other
could say-
discussion?
If I could say one thing?
Yes.
On your motion to table, is it appropriate that a special meeting, a tabling would have to be to the next regular meeting, right? That could be identified?
I think that's generally true.
Because the advertisement that you put out in the beginning for a public hearing. So you can't table it to a special meeting without setting the date at this time.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to share that with you.
Be more appropriate to
and
take
that-
no action.
And that may be a question for council if they anticipate getting that information within just a couple of weeks, or whether they anticipate it's going to take a month to get releases from mortgage companies or any other interest holders. I mean,
We could set a date. I mean, if it doesn't,
Give us a date and we'll work for that with that date.
well, if we table it, it'll be on the second Tuesday of April, whatever that.
That's April 9th.
April 9th, David?
What's the other choice? Could we like have a special meeting?
We have to pick a date, and then we have to do posting, within the 48 hours and 24-hour requirements, but, next week is spring break, and I know I'm going to be gone for the whole week.
Take at least 3 weeks for us to be able to.
Okay. Do we have to, can we say special meeting without a date? Or do we have to set a date?
If it's not going to be on the regularly scheduled meeting, we need to set a date.
And Mr. Kelly, your comment on the 3 weeks, that puts us almost at the next regular meeting.
The next meeting after that is May the 14th.
Pardon me? Okay. Okay, April the 9th, and that is our next regular meeting. We have a motion to table, which will mean the next regular meeting. Thank you for that, Marty. And we had a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you all. We come to item number 6 on our agenda under citizen comments on non-agenda items, and we didn't have anybody sign up this evening. So we'll go to item number 7 under new business. Anything under new business? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn out of regular city council session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk will record the vote, please.
Councilmember Hawthorne?
Aye.
Councilmember Groby?
Aye.
Councilmember Dills?
Aye.
Mayor Tomlinson?
Aye, we are adjourned out of the regular city council meeting. Does anybody need a break?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll take a very short break.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Oh, did you see the picture? If you stood on that road with a pin there and a pin there, you would assume your property line was that way. And they built it like that. And then we got out there later and discovered the property lines were actually east-west horizontal. So they were all at angles and the houses were built straight on the road. It was just clearly an oversight. It's not the inspector's responsibility, it's the developers. But my inspector stood there and said the same thing. I stood in front of that house and I see the pin and it's 5 foot off and 5 foot off. But those houses were all at angles. But then you're lining them up with the wrong pins because, you know, you can, yeah. Now, the red lines on the screen were also a little skewed to the south. That happens sometimes on the mapping on the AutoCAD. Yeah, there you go. So I was hoping that wouldn't, because there was a red line through a house on the other side of the street too. I was like, don't forget that. But if you moved them all 10 feet north and did this, it would have fit perfect.
So it wasn't the surveyor. The surveyor had it plotted correctly, but it was the.
But you got 12 big pins, and you get there, and you just assume that was yours, right? When it should have been this one. So you're looking at the diagram. It was a weird setup, but it was missed by everybody until the very, they tried to build the last house, and the lot was odd. They got out to that corner on that last pin, they were like, this is coming from both those pins. What happened? It's like a triangle now. Instead of, you know, because they were offset.
You can match up 3, you can't line up 4.
Yeah, exactly. Time you get to the fourth one, and that was what happened. We got to the fourth one. It doesn't happen like that very often. Every once in a while we get somebody to build, you know, this farm to the line. And, I mean, you can make little amendments and stuff, but usually it doesn't affect that many people. Usually it's just one property owner, and they're just really in violation of the setback, not the property owner. We require the fact of the setback. So nobody ever built a property. That just doesn't happen. Now, I've got old houses.
Similar, they buy 3 lots or 2 lots.
You build right across the middle of it. Well, but now we make them do that. And their new general warranty deed shows all 3 lots as one piece of property. Back in the old days, they did. So I could still be paying taxes on 3 different pieces of property with a house sitting right across the middle. The Boys and Girls Club, the middle school, is sitting on Beach, Elm, no, Cedar. What is that one that is to? That's still a street. That gymnasium and that school on the other side. It's still a street. No. They never built it. The school was there first. But it's platted. It's part of the original town plat as a street. Let's just go tell them. You vacated with the county. Now we gotta get approval.
Get an ordinance that provides vacation on the street, and then to make sure that it sticks, they gotta go file.
The judge has got
They gotta go file it in the courthouse.
We got one right now that wants to vacate. Have you seen this one? Fairview Baptist up on 12th and University. They want us to vacate, like, it's Grant and alleyway or something. But there's water down that alley, there's telephone poles down the alley, I mean, all the utilities. I don't care if they work the street, I don't care working on it. That's beside it. It's like between their parking lot and the church, you know?
You can vacate the street and maintain the
The
utilities.
utility's gonna have to stay. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Basically, you're treating the street for utilities. You don't need to leave 25 feet, you're just making a 15-foot utility easement.
It's a dead street. It dead ends on the other side, nobody uses it except the church anyway. It doesn't have a lot of power. So that's okay. I'm okay if they fence it off and don't let people just use it. But they can't have my utility. Usually vacate, relocation.
If you completely vacate, now I've been where we vacated the street to maintain the utilities.
Okay, maybe that's what they're doing on this one. 'Cause I know, I told Tom, they said that's what they're doing.
You just basically shrink that down to 15-foot utilities, vacate the boundaries of the street.
Could be worse. I keep finding utilities that are not in the, like by 15 feet, they're out of the easement. This over here behind Easy Phone, doing this construction, these apartment buildings. Well, I saw the plans and they showed my sewer line easement. They showed a building right on like a pavilion. I said, you can't put a structure on my utility. She said, why? Sewer line's over So we're gonna abandon that one, and then they're gonna dedicate the new easement that's actually over the sewer. So it was a brilliant catch, but it's like, oh, I can do it there. The sewer line's not even in, it's over here. After a certain period, my sewer line grants its own like fatherhood and grandfatherhood. It really does. They can't make me move it, you know?
Been there more than 10 years.
I think it's 10 years.
And you get an easement by right. But that still doesn't.
You want to document it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But what that doesn't do is it doesn't vacate or eliminate the easement that where it was supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah.
That's still an easement.
When they bring in the plat to that apartment complex, we're going to vacate the easement and accept the new easements and stuff like that. Got another one digging a basement in the backyard today and found a sewer line. What? Shane Knight drew it up for them. I mean, they got permits, but it's all one piece of property. You know, I don't know. Did they not call over here? Or did my guy not locate the right yard or the right yard or whatever? It's obviously our sewer. And I can line it up by the man. I know where it's at. They're lucky they missed out the pool thing there. You know what I mean? Like not very far away. Might have been but they were like, so y'all gotta move this. You gotta go. An 8-inch sewer main goes all the way up to the back of the first subdivision. I can't just, I mean, it's gravity. I can't just move it.
Outside bid. So it's not in their original easement where it's supposed to be.
Well, so they bought a piece of property in Quail Creek, which backs up to Preston. And there's like 6 or 8 houses that are back to back to back, and there's a sewer line. Well, they bought one at the very front end, the very south end. It came with another piece of property, another legal description, although it's always been used as one home front, you know? And that piece of property does not touch the street of Preston, so it's never part of either subdivision. Like a full unique piece of property. Actually has a Gale Farrell address. And so to them, and all they've ever known when they bought this is I have a huge backyard, nobody else can. And what they don't know is their sewer line is right in the middle of it. 100 pair of phone here, and they dug that up too. And AT&T told them they had nothing back. Nobody knows.
Or if it was maintenance, I would run across that word.
There's no way they can,
Sewer line, somebody will run into a sewer line and it's like, I don't have it on my map, but it was abandoned like 50 years ago.
Well, you don't know.
They said, well, no, they moved it to the front of the yard and
I don't know what
everybody.
these people are gonna do because they were building
Abandoned
this
the alley.
and they've got architect involved, they've got builder involved, an underground basement, bunker, shelter type thing, everybody. They can't do it. They just can't. I don't know how much money they're gonna invest in it. I've got to do this. Shane's like, we have a survey. We couldn't find these anywhere. I'm like, Shane, there's a sewer line there. I'm not gonna promise there's these, but I think it's been there 10 years.
There's a prescriptive right easement.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. Oh, me.
Fine. Every day. Makes it fun. You gotta fix it. As a city, two neighbors following over. And then he got, big deal.
Tom, I'm trying to find out how to get to my next agenda. I'm just lost. Where do I go?
Let's see. Look down here. Let's see if they've got.
Right here?
Yeah.
You.
I would just tell you,
Let's see. I'm trying to get to the, this was the staff briefing.
oh, do this drop.
That's it. That's what I bet it is too. Tom, you were right about that other deal. The
Homeowners.
Mhm.
You know, it's a tough deal, 'cause it is
Well,
sort of
it
chicken
is.
and the egg. I mean, we could fix it and then
Well-
rely on them to go clean it up and do everything they're supposed to do, but.
See, we had gone and I had that happen. We had a house built in Denison, and we didn't know it until somebody come to look at the lot next to us. And our garage, you know, you went in the end of the garage, and our garage was on the property. So we went back to the guy that sold us. He ended up selling us that lot for like half price. We bought the lot, but we didn't do it.
Right.
They built the house over on the other lot, so I know I've had it happen.
And it should be a private. You know, the good part about this is because if let's say somebody had owned that lot next to you,
Right.
and then just get to come to the city and have the city move the line and take 20 feet from your neighbor and give it to you.
And I'm gonna tell you what, when you start messing with people's property, they are territorial, you know
I'll
it?
tell you what, I would rather mess with someone boy's wife than this fence line.
I guarantee-
I've seen more people get
I
shot
know
over a
it.
fence line.
By the way, did you hear about the shooting at the Econo Lodge? What was it? Who was it?
There's a young kid from Rangers that was shot. His name was, he was about 21.
Was
He
it-
was
See, we'll let the record show it's 8:37. Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant City Utilities Authority of March the 12th, 2019, and ask Secretary, call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Here.
Trustee Groby,
Here.
Trustee Dills.
Here.
Vice Chairman Hitchcock is absent. Chairman Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, we have a quorum. First order of business, consent items, we have 1A. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk or secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Under information items, any questions or reports there? Hearing none, we have moved to administration. The two items to consider: 4A, consider, discuss, and authorize city manager to submit a Clearwater State Revolving Fund, CWSRF, loan application to Oklahoma Water Resources Board, OWRB, for $4 million loan to upgrade the water utility system to an automatic meter reading and advanced reading infrastructure system. Mr. Gregg.
Yes. As we're looking at doing the citywide implementation for our water meters and going to a fixed-based AM or AMI system, the Oklahoma Water Resources Board is looking at to be our best financial financial avenue at about a 2.36% interest over a 20-year period. That's a subsidized rate, so it's actually less than prime, and it's a drawdown type loan. So the board would authorize up to $4 million, and then if we end up getting one of the grants, then we would just not draw down the full amount. We would just draw down, and then it would close and final to whatever amount that we have outstanding. But it does provide us then, if we do not get either the 300,000 or the 1.5, we have the full funds available to continue to move forward with the full implementation and moving forward with this program. We've talked about the importance and the need to move forward. I think council's been very supportive. in the concept of doing a system-wide full implementation to upgrade our utility water meter system. This just is that first step. We still need to we'll need to have the loan in place and authorized prior to, if we do get the grant, show that we have our funding in place to match that. So it's sort of a timing process. It'll take about 60 days. We're looking at from tonight, if the council authorizes us, or authority authorizes to make application, we'll probably be on the May board meeting for OWRB, and the for them to award the grant. And then there's closing and some other documentation and stuff that for that to be awarded that we would need to have in place till we show that we have our funding in place prior to the award for any grant that we subsequently get. Answer any questions?
Questions for...
or did I hear a motion?
Mr. Gregg.
You looked at me when you asked if there were any questions. I think you answered my question back in the pre-agenda meeting, that this would be basically a drawdown.
Yes, ma'am.
If it didn't cost but $2 million, that's all we would take.
Yes, ma'am.
But you did say it would be a 20-year loan.
Well, we can submit for either a 5, 10, 15, 20, or even a 30-year, given for being able to manage our debt service. A 20-year would probably give us some room with regards to our debt service that we would have over that time. So,
and if we're awarded the 1.5 million, we can definitely reevaluate the length of the terms too.
And there's no prepayment penalty. So if we double up our payments and pay it in 10 years, there's no negative impact with regards to being able to pay it off early.
Of course, we don't have an estimate yet or anything about what the water system's going to cost.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we have ideas and we have had discussions, so we have an idea, but we don't have a firm figure yet.
Okay.
And I know we probably covered this in previous meetings as far as our ability to pay this back. Some of that anticipated with cost savings?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Buckley? Are we at a time to consider a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Grube.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4B, consideration to designate the Oklahoma Water Resources Board Clearwater State Revolving Fund, CWSRF, loan funds as a non-federal match towards the U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation 2019 Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency Program Grant application for a citywide automatic meter reader project.
This is one of those check boxes that we're just acknowledging that the OWRB funds will be used as our match towards the Water Smart grants that we're applying for. So this is just that piece of paper to check that box that we are securing our match.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Grube.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion. Do we have
Second.
a second? Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Grube.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, we are adjourned from the Durant City Utilities Authority. Time now is 8:44. Call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Durant Airport Authority of March the 12th, 2019. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Grube.
Here.
Trustee Dills.
Here.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Here. For the record, we do have a quorum under Agenda item number 1, we have 1A. Under the consent items, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and 2 seconds.
All right.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne.
Aye.
Trustee Groby.
Aye.
Trustee Dills.
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. Takes us to item number 3, under the monthly report. Any questions or comments there? Hearing none, we'll move to an item number 4. We had no one sign up under the citizen comments on non-agenda items. Takes us to item number 5 under administration, 5A, and that's to consider approval of the fixed base operator, FBO, minimum standards document and to begin implementation. Mr. Marty.
For the last time, City Council, I'm back. I don't know that there's anybody in this room that wasn't in our briefing earlier, but this is where we're going to implement an FBO document to allow FBOs to operate on our airport, but in doing so, not have a contract with an individual FBO in a way that would limit us from hiring personnel to fulfill certain duties at the airport.
Any questions for Marty?
Is this not where we decided that we would have a bond counsel come in and talk to us and explain to us these IRS rules, or did we not discuss this in the pre-agenda meeting?
We discussed, I think, that as an option. The bond counsel presented us with documents that give their findings. I mean, you're not going to change those findings. They are what they are. I think Tom spoke to that a little bit. Now it's their findings, not Tom's findings, not my findings, but.
Well, and if I could, I think we could still do that. However, our consideration is to consider approval of a document that will allow Marty and the city manager and Mr. Buckley to move forward with a minimum standards document for FBO operation.
And it would still have to have final approval by the airport authority.
And still have to come back, yeah. So that's our consideration tonight.
What?
If we had somebody that applied to, for an
somebody
FBO.
uses this document to apply to be an FBO, it
Yes,
always comes back to the authority.
It would come back to the authority.
Yeah.
Marty, what's
As a notice, basically. You probably wouldn't be denying a lot of them, but.
what's really the difference? I guess maybe it's just the focus between this minimum standards that's on this attachment and what we approved back in December on the rules and regulations.
It's really two similar devices. Anywhere they match up, obviously, we've tried to make sure the wording remains the same. One of them is rules and regulations for anybody that utilizes the airport. And this is more rules and regulations for people that want to be FBOs and want to be service providers for the airport, okay? So if I have a hangar out there and I've got my little plane and I go out there and fly twice a week, I'm not filling out this document. I've just got to mind the rules and regulations. But if I'm going to provide an enhanced service on the airport, then I've got to fill out this document and get permission from the city, who owns the airport itself, and to provide those enhanced services at the airport. We're going to use it as a bit of a tracking mechanism to understand, because right now I don't know who does what out there, except what I've learned in my time. I can't go to any one file here at City Hall and go, look, I've got an aviation mechanic on site. I've just got to know that because I have visited the aviation department out there, you know? And so it would be good to be able to track what we have available.
I'm sorry.
What we're really talking about is also, though, the operations and management of the airport, being a city employee. And you know, part of that is something, to be honest, not too long ago, we had an employee at the airport. That's not a new concept, not a new idea. When Sarah was in office as city manager, I believe is when we moved that person from that position and adjusted the current contract on the FBO a little bit. And that's what we're trying to kind of work backwards on, okay?
Marty, what would be the advantage of having the FBO be a city employee as opposed to being like they are now?
The advantage is that the tax counselor decided that that's what we need to stay in good shape. So, I mean, if we didn't have this tax bond, you're absolutely right. Giving an FBO to a company is the way it's done. That's common practice. But this tax bond puts us in a completely different arena.
When will the tax bond be paid off?
10 years. We're halfway through it right now. And we've checked, we can't prepay. Because we looked at that as an option, just pay our way out of it and do what we want. But we can't do that, it's not allowed.
So basically, you're saying we've been operating illegally out there for 10 years?
Not illegally, and you might address, but they've never used the word illegal. They've checked our financial status and our fitness, and they believe that we're good, but they've given us a direction forward.
You can't throw the word illegal around. There's not a law that's been violated, not even alleged to have been violated.
Right.
But according to bond counsel and the terms of the bond, typically when things are constructed with tax-free bonds, municipal bonds, it can't be operated for a profit. And we've got an FBO that is operating at a profit. He's a contractor. Now there's a formula and a threshold, and our bond counsel tells us that conceivably we're at that threshold and has advised that we make changes to remain in compliance with the terms of the bond, and that if we don't make those changes, we risk being out of compliance with the bond, which causes a whole bunch of problems that we're probably not equipped to deal with. So, or certainly wouldn't want to have to deal with. But municipal bonds are not my wheelhouse. So I have to depend on the guys that do it all day, every day. And what they're advising is that we start the steps to phase out of that type of environment and run the airport with employees, as has been done in the recent past.
Yeah.
But we're only bound to do that until these bonds are no longer in place. Then the council can do whatever they want to, or the authority can do whatever they want to. They can have one or more FBOs that are operating for profit, or city employees, or whatever they want to do. But bond counsel is telling us to remain in compliance, we need to make some changes.
We're actually very fortunate that through our due diligence, we discovered something and caught it before we got too far. Because had we not opened that book and had we just approved the next FBO the way we had intended to, we would have been in high violation. And so we've discovered that we were headed the wrong way all these years, and we're backing up to the proper location.
And when did you open that book, Marty?
When we went for the RFP, it was last August or July or somewhere in there when we first discovered this information. Odin, I bet that book hadn't been looked in twice in the last 10 years. I mean, unless you need to verify something about the bond, there's really no reason to look into it. But that's when we discovered we couldn't run a restaurant in the terminal building. That's when we discovered I couldn't put vending machines in there that somebody else makes cash off of. That's when I discovered that I couldn't, and one of those things was operations and management of the airport and the terminal building.
How much do we owe on the bond?
About $1 million. It was a $2 million bond, and we're about halfway through. I could get you the exact numbers, but now, like I said, there's also no prepay, no payoff. I can't pay it off early, so.
Marty, I was asking earlier about limitations and it being specifically tied to the terminal. And it was right up about the fuel tanks, that it would essentially apply to that. And the way I guess I'm looking at it, is it specifically the sale of fuel? Or is it physically using our tanks?
So, okay, to be honest, that's kind of two parts, right? They do agree that the fuel farm is tied into that because we have had that fuel farm as a part of the city. So even though my operator out there operates the equipment, the city buys the gas, the city sells the gas, it's a city profit. And so the other part of that is I also don't want to give up my profit generator, right? So if the city's going to take over and make sure that we continue to hold the profit of the fuel sales through those tanks, the only way I can do that is with city employee, because now I'm running it as part of my airport property. If I wanted, or I'm sorry, if you all wanted to let somebody else come in and run the fuel service in a way that they could store their own fuel there and sell it to the public and basically put me out of business, then that's okay, except that you've given up $200,000 a year worth of profit, which just isn't smart fiscal sense.
Are you
know?
speaking of fuel?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't David Bray just buy his own fuel truck and selling fuel to
He owns a fuel truck, but to my knowledge, he's not sold fuel to anybody.
He's not using it for Blake Shelton's planes?
Not that I know of, and I don't know his customers well enough to speak of them. What I do know is he owns a fuel truck. He bought out another FBO business of some kind and got some equipment, but to my knowledge, he is not operating on my airport yet.
But he can.
Not unless he signs up with this application and meets all these requirements. It's one of the reasons I want to start tracking, because I want to know who's doing what at my airport.
Does this document, is the sale of fuel sales negotiable in this document?
It's always adjustable by this authority at a later time. In this document, fuel sales is only enhanced. So they cannot store their fuel at my airport. If they would like to draw fuel from my tank and pay full price, then they can put it on their truck and haul it to a plane and charge extra. But to be honest, the math doesn't work and they can't profit at it like that. But I recommend, and I always will, that we make the best fiscal responsible decision for our airport. And right now, a profit generator is something I don't have enough of.
Well,
and I wouldn't give up that fuel source.
I guess this is kind of the way I'm looking at it, is obviously just looking at the budget and what we went through in the past with the airport, obviously fuel sales is probably a primary income.
Sure.
So that's our justification for moving in this direction, to be able to turn around and pay for an employee to be out there, or multiple employees. The same could be said for the FBO. So we're saying that this is the direction we're going to go, and we'll allow FBOs, but we're taking out their source of income that they would be able to set up an FBO. So we're kind of, by default, not allowing FBOs because there's no way it could possibly be profitable.
No, they can always be profitable, but they'll never be profitable on fuel. Remember, an FBO could be an airplane mechanic, they could be avionics, they could be all these combined. Usually, they have something to do with fuel. Obviously, that's the moneymaker, but that is not something we have to allow them to have. And again, it's a profit generator that we own right now, and I can't see giving that up intentionally. The other profit generator is the hangar rent, and again, we've talked about that in the past. I wouldn't think giving that profit generator up is a good idea. I'm going to have to man this airport somehow, and to pay for somebody to be out there, even if they do the very minimum of work and as somebody waving at people as they go by, I need a profit generator to be able to pay for them.
Marty, you just said you have to man the airport somehow. Is it not being manned?
Not by a city employee, which is the problem.
Is there any way we could table this till Chad is here and we could have a chance to understand what this is all about?
I mean, you're welcome to do what you want.
I didn't, getting this on Friday night and trying to figure this out sure didn't give me any time to understand all this stuff. I didn't understand about bonds and IRS rules and all that, and I'd like to understand what that's all about.
What I would remind you is that bond counsel has asked us to act on this immediately, in their words. And so I also don't want to put the city in jeopardy, and that's why I took the responsibility of getting it on here as soon as I had knowledge that I could. Because I didn't want to waste my time and your time by waiting another month and end up finding ourselves in some kind of a situation.
So after 10 years, 1 month from now, we could get in trouble.
We could get in trouble tomorrow. I mean, I know that they asked us to act immediately is what the wording was. So you guys have absolute authority to do what you think you need to do. But
if it pleases the council for us to be able to provide additional information from the bond counsel, we can certainly do that as well. I think we could probably contact them, and I don't think there would be harm in us delaying it for 3 or 4 weeks until the next meeting, other than that, I mean, they have given us a directive to get this done, and,
sure.
And we've been back to the drawing board and trying to figure out ways to make this make financial sense So, I mean, we've gone to the drawing board dozens of times and trying to figure out, and like Marty said, financially, the cash cow we have out there is our fuel sales, and that's what pays for currently the DW Aviation contract and so forth, and that provides us the ability to currently have those services. So, I mean, what do you think?
Well,
I want you to know, this is also holding up 2 or 3 projects I have that
That's true,
I can't
too.
invest on until I actually know which direction this is going.
That's true.
I don't have a problem in considering this tonight. I think we have to give Marty some credit here and staff that have worked on this probably, I think he said, for months.
Tirelessly.
And we may not totally understand it yet, but Marty does. And city manager for that matter. So,
and as Marty stated, had we just moved forward and just not really done our due diligence once we were looking at the FBO contracts and awarded one, and then a year into it figured out this was the situation. I mean, these bond documents are the ones that you get, you know, they're a book this thick once you get it. And
look like those leather bound.
yeah, I mean, and like Marty said, most people don't go back to them unless they absolutely have to. And in this situation, there was a question that came up about, you know, possibly putting a restaurant or something in the terminal, and that's what drew the attention of us and making sure that that was possible. And once we discovered it wasn't, and in fact, the way we were going in the direction of just awarding an FBO for the airport would have put us in some.
I'd recommend before we sign another bond document, we take a very close look at it. I'll give you that much.
Well, I commend Marty and Tim that they've done their research and know what they're talking about and understand it.
And to
But
be honest, I don't
understand
like it
If I got
either.
to vote, I don't want to vote on something I don't understand.
you can't vote on his recommendation?
I'll be honest, I don't.
I want to vote on my own.
Okay, that's fine. I think it's incumbent upon us as an authority tonight to take his advice so that the bond council sees we're making an effort. It doesn't mean that we implement this document. It means we approved it, which is what they're asking. And will provide at least to the IRS and the bond council people that we're making an effort to stay in compliance. We can still have these meetings later. I think it's incumbent upon us to consider it tonight.
And I agree, we've got to do something to get in compliance. My only concern is, and I won't dispute the issues with what the bond council brought up, it's just, I think there's at least 1 or 2 things in there specifically that are in conflict with us saying that we'll allow FBOs. I mean, we're going to take out the biggest source that they would have for income, just like we would, and I know it's an issue of math, but we're saying we allow it, but in reality, we're not providing any means for them to bring in income.
We're also not requiring them to give us any monetary exchange for that ability to do whatever they want to do. We really just want notice that they're going to be doing it and a way to decide who's doing what at our airport. So we made it free kind of on purpose because we know they're not going to get a lot of benefit, you know?
And if it's decided at some point we want to make amendments to this FBO standards, we certainly have
you always have that authority.
The privy to do that as well.
If somebody at some time in the future challenges this standard and wants to bring it back up, just like we would an ordinance or anything else, I mean, we can always make alterations.
And also, I'd be remiss if we didn't remind council the projects that we get with a lot of federal funding from the FAA and the recent thing we've done with the runway extension, which also involved a matching grant for over $2 million, is something that we have to always take into consideration too. So,
called grant assurances. If we don't mind certain regulations, we won't get those.
And that's simply what this document is.
Because we went to Ada and we talked to them, and then we went by Ardmore, and I know at least in Ada they had a airport manager over there, but they had multiple FBOs.
Correct.
their FBOs are selling fuel and they're not buying it from the city. So what is Ada and Ardmore doing? They're able to fund a position, at least one for sure.
You know, sometimes that's historical. The city's always owned their own fuel tanks.
But it's doable.
So why wouldn't they? Oh, yeah, I mean, you could do it, but why wouldn't the city go ahead and make profit on their system as long as it's operational and not functional? Now, a lot of them have had multiple FBOs selling their own fuel the whole time they've been in an airport. It's just the way they function. And a lot of times the city can't go up and set up that to take over that process from them. But because we have our own tanks, because it's already the way we've operated, we're buying our own fuel, we're selling our own fuel. We've just been doing it with a contractor. We're proposing now that we do that with an employee to try to stay within those guidelines. And I don't want to give up a profit generator. If I thought that that would also give up a workload that would compensate for that and, you know, take care of those people, but it won't. The equality is not there. That profit generator is worth more to me than the employees I can hire if I don't have it. Does that make sense?
I get it. And I guess that's my
The
other
cost
issue
benefit
is
analysis.
It's a city. Let's worry about running a city, not an airport. And you know, we're talking about a couple $100,000, $200,000 a year.
I know it's not much, but I only make $300,000 or $400,000.
So we're gonna break even. Go through all this to break even. That's the point I'm trying to make. We're gonna break even. We're not really gonna come out ahead.
But if
City employees cost a lot more
if
than
we give
what
up some of our
FBO
profit on fuel, we actually start losing money. Right? So instead of my total being $500,000 a year in my revenue, I've only got $4,000 now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, I try to keep my revenue equal or above. I mean, I'm not gonna bring you a plan that will intentionally strip profit from you. I mean, that didn't seem like a good idea.
And just to add it, and that, I think that is a policy position, but it's probably one for another day, because as Marty indicated, bond counsel has indicated fuel cells aren't something that we could let out right now if we wanted to. Is that accurate?
They've basically told us that's a combo with the terminal building, so that's part of the deal.
So
we need to maintain our own fuel cells.
But that's not what we just said. We just said that we could change that to allow them to have their own tanks. If we take that out of the
physically, any airport can, but we can't and meet the requirements of bond counsel at this moment. Now, after further visit with bond counsel and maybe some realignment of the interpretation they give us, I mean, that's a question we can ask. That's all I can promise. But we've sent 4 or 5 proposals to them in different formations for the share of some kind of fuel or profit or their tanks, not our tanks, and they've rejected every one of them. And we've tried that. Now, after 10 years is up and this bond is gone, do what you want. I still wouldn't recommend it if you're going to lose profit. That's just bad business.
And I get that and understand why, but it's I keep asking, is it a matter of facilities and what's out there, or is it just the fact of a profit? But depending on how I ask, the answer kind of changes. So it's like, well, we can have an FBO, they just can't do these certain things. We'll bring up the issue of fuel cells because that's how we're going to pay our end of the bills, but you're going to let an FBO come out and they can operate anything else that makes a profit, just so long as it's not something the city wants to do, but it's because the bond counsel said so. That's kind of the response.
I mean, I understand, and that's why we pulled our hair out for 3 months trying to address this, because I can rent you a hangar and you can pay me rent on a hangar and you can do something in it like airframe or power plant, make mechanic work, something, and that's absolutely okay. And you're making full profit, but not at my expense, right? Because it's not something that I am also making profit at. And maybe that's where the separation is. Because I already am making a profit at fuel and have been this whole time. That's a part of my justification for the bond money that we got to build the terminal building. We've scratched our head over and over again. But we do feel like we've brought you a sound plan that has the support of the bond counsel, and our own legal has at least reviewed it as well. So.
And based on that, I would recommend that the authority pass this on the recommendation of bond counsel, of staff, and because it is somewhat fluid in that it can be changed, maybe have bond counsel provide additional information to answer those questions or explain why the position is the way it is, but already have this sort of down the road so that we remain in compliance.
Further questions for Marty? Are we out of time for a motion? Is there further discussion or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. I'll move to approve the fixed base operator FBO minimum standards document as per the recommendation of bond counsel and staff.
Second.
Have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
No.
Trustee Groby,
No.
Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson,
Aye, the motion fails. And I thought we were about compliance. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Secretary will record the vote, please.
Trustee Hawthorne,
Aye.
Trustee Groby, Trustee Dills,
Aye.
Chairman Tomlinson.
Aye, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.